Hey, it's Patrick from J&P Cycles, and I'm gonna show you how to put a Legend Suspension AXEO cartridge kit in the front end of this Milwaukee 8 Softail. But why would you wanna do that? If you're looking to make your Harley Davidson handle better, this is one of the best things you can do. A lot of people replace the rear suspension on their motorcycle, but completely neglect the front end. And these cartridge kits replace that asymmetrical design in these motorcycles and really dial in your handling and the ride of your motorcycle. For today, I'm gonna be putting it on this 2019 Fat Bob, but if you have a Milwaukee 8 powered Lowrider S or Sport Glide with this inverted fork, the install is going to be basically exactly the same. Okay, a few things we're gonna need. Number one is this Jim's Castle Nut tool. If you don't have that, you really can't do this job. Number two is this fork tube holder. It's nice to have, definitely not necessary. And we're gonna need some fork oil. Now, before we get to any of that, the first thing we have to do is take off the fender, take off the brake calipers, and take off the front wheel. I like to hang these calipers up so it takes pressure off the brake line so they're not just hanging by the brake line. An old bungee will do the trick. It's important to note that we're starting with the left leg as you would be sitting on the bike. That's important because these legs are different internally from one to the other. Therefore, the installation will be a little bit different from one to the other. So we're gonna start with the left one. We're gonna remove it from the triple clamp here and we're gonna put it in a vise with our Jim's tool that's made to kind of hold these legs. You could potentially do it in the triple clamp if you had handlebars that weren't in the way. Before I get moved over to the vise, I like to break this top cap loose. This is a 19mm Allen on the top, and break the drain screw on the bottom loose, and a 6mm on the bottom. Now, don't take these all the way out on the bike. We'll wait till we get over on the vise to do that. One of the reasons is you'll lose all the fluid here on the floor. Dirty. Okay, so we're gonna pull our 6mm Allen out of here, and there's gonna be a little crush washer on it. We need to save that. It's not a bad idea to replace that. We're gonna save ours. And then while this drains, we're gonna work this fork leg up and down a little bit to make sure we get all the fluid out of it, or as much as we can anyway. Okay, so now we're back up at the top. We have to unthread this to slide this down to access another nut so we can get this out of here. Okay, so now we have the top cap off. We're gonna pull this whole unit out of here. So now I'm gonna take the whole fork leg out of the tool so I can basically dump everything else out of it. We have to make sure we get everything out of here. Make sure you get this little centering plate. That's what centers that cartridge in there. That has to come out. And so I might have to give it a good whack to get it out. But now that ours is out, we can clean up our mess and we can set up our cartridge piece before we actually put it into the tube. Okay, we have our AXEO piece here and we're gonna set our preload. Now that setting is completely up to your riding style. We're gonna set this up for a little bit heavier rider. We're gonna put 1 turn of preload in there. So basically this is our preload adjuster here, this little billet piece. It's got a little Allen set screw in it. It's an 1/8" Allen. We're gonna back that screw out. We're gonna turn this adjuster 1 full turn, and on the threaded rod in there is a flat spot. That's where that set screw needs to go back to, and that's 1 complete turn. You can't do half turns, only full turns. Put 1 turn of preload in this, so it's gonna come down on the spring, 1 turn. I'm gonna put a little bit of blue Loctite on there, and I'm gonna tighten that Allen screw back up. Okay, we're gonna drop our unit into the fork leg here. It's important that this gets seated in there. There's a little edge, watch this. I can see it drop down in there. Make sure it's seated all the way down in the bottom before you put your screw in. We're going to take our 6mm Allen with our crush washer, run that back up in there and torque that to 15 foot-pounds. Probably gonna have to hold a little spring pressure on there to get that torqued. After that, we're going to fill the fork leg up with 8.5 ounces of 20 weight fluid. And it's important that you use 8.5 ounces because each leg is actually a different amount. For this bike, for this leg, 8.5 ounces of 20 weight fluid. Okay, fluid's in. We're going to thread this down into our fork tube. When we slide this back into our triple tree, we're gonna torque this to 25 foot-pounds. We wanna make sure we set our height right. In this particular tube, not including this top cap, sitting about a 1/2 inch above the top of the triple tree. We wanna make sure both of those are the same when you get them in there. And then we're gonna torque those triple clamp screws anywhere from 16 to 20 foot-pounds. Voila. Okay, now we get to start on the right side leg, and it's actually a little bit different than the left side leg. One thing is there's no drain plug in the bottom, so I'm gonna break this loose while it's in the triple clamp. We get it out of here, get it back over into the vise. There we go. Pretty good. Should be able to spin this off pretty easily, and I shouldn't be under any spring pressure underneath there. So next, I'm gonna take an 11/16 wrench on our 19mm Allen, and I'm gonna break this top cap loose so I can spin this off here. Then we can dump the fluid out of the fork leg. Okay, for the next step, we're gonna need our gym special tool here. And what this does is this will get the castle nut loose and out of here so we can take the rest of the internals of the fork out. It has those little teeth on it right there, and they fit into the slots on that castle nut. You really kind of can't do this without this tool, so if you're planning on doing it, this is kind of a must-have. What we're gonna do is we're gonna slip this over the top onto our castle nut. You're gonna have to hold this still down here while you break this loose. One thing to note, this castle nut is under spring pressure. Make sure it doesn't go shooting across the shop somewhere. As it gets to the top, it's gonna wanna pop up. And there is the end of the jack in the box. And again, everything comes out. So setting preload on this side is the same as before, with the exception of you have to do it through this little window here. So we're gonna take our set screw out. We're gonna go one turn down onto the spring. Put some blue Loctite back in our set screw, tighten it back up, go over, drop in the fork tube. All right, so we're gonna drop in our cartridge, real nice and easy like. So for our right-hand fork leg on a fat bob, we need 5.1 ounces. Make sure you check the Legends instruction sheet. It'll tell you exactly how much for what model. So now we have to thread this down into the tube. We're gonna wanna put a little bit of blue Loctite on the threads. And then what you really need is a 40mm wrench, which probably nobody has. So we're going to use the wrench that fits everything. Use a big crescent wrench on that. Just be sure that if you're using a crescent wrench, or God forbid, a pair of channel locks on this, you don't wanna scar this up, especially these round areas, because it'll tear up the inside of the tube. So just be real careful when you're tightening this up. So next step is we're going to thread in our top cap. We're going to take it over, put it back in the triple clamp. I'm just gonna tighten up one so I can torque it. We're gonna torque the top clamp to 25 foot-pounds. Make sure you set the height of the tube at the same height as you did the other one. We're gonna torque our triple clamp bolts anywhere from 16 to 20 foot-pounds. Okay, fork legs back in. Now we just have to put the front wheel and calipers back on. Torque the axle to 70 to 75 foot-pounds. The pinch bolt that goes underneath is 11 to 15 foot-pounds. And your caliper mounting bolts are 28 to 38 foot-pounds. Touch of blue Loctite on those isn't a bad idea either. Now that our fender's back on, we are done and ready for many miles of happy motoring through the twisties. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop us a comment. Go work on those motorcycles.